Today I'm part of a collab called Cooking It Slow, started by Kim over at Life Over 55 with Kim. And my offering is something I think that you'll really love, especially with these cool autumn months coming up. This is my slow cooker cheesy chicken and rice. Comes together with minimal effort. So join me and the other channels in this collab as we offer you some delicious slow cooker meals. If you'd like to see how this is done, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I am here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is one of mine, and it is part of a collab that is being hosted by Kim over at Life Over 55 with Kim. And I will have all of the channels that are participating in this collab down in the description box, so go check them out. We have some US and some UK channels participating, so check out that description box for all of their links. Now, for my recipe, I decided I want something very comforting, very cheesy, so I am doing a slow cooker cheesy chicken and rice. So let's not make you wait any longer. Let's go over the ingredients. I have here my cooking spray. You could use a crock pot liner. I have used them in the past. I'm just not overly fond of having a liner in there, so you can if you want to. I'm using the cooking spray. Here I have 2.5 cups of low sodium chicken broth, and that is going to help enhance the chicken flavor. Here I have one 10.5 ounce can of cream of chicken soup, and that is the 98% fat free, so it's the lowest in bites, points, and calories. Here I have 1.5 pounds of chicken breast, and that is cut into 1-inch cubes. I wanted it a little chunkier because it's going to be in the slow cooker for a while, and I didn't want it to get dried out. So I like to make them a little bigger when they're going in. Now, if you wanted, you could just put the whole breasts in there and then just take them out later and shred them and put them back in. But I like the ease of just cutting them up into cubes and putting them in. But you do as you want to do. Here I have 1.5 cups of jasmine rice. You don't have to use jasmine rice. Any white rice will do. I've tried it with brown rice and it doesn't quite cook through enough. So if you do want to use the brown rice, what I would suggest is par cooking it, which means slightly cooking it beforehand and then put it in. I would maybe cook it for about 5 or 10 minutes just to soften it up a little bit. Here I have 1.5 cups of frozen mixed vegetables. You don't have to use the mixed vegetables. You could use peas and carrots. You could use whatever you like. You don't even have to use frozen, although if you do use fresh, few things I wanted to mention is if they are harder vegetables like cauliflower, potatoes, etc., you would put those in at the beginning. If they're softer vegetables or even canned vegetables, you would put those in towards the end when we're going to be adding in our cheese. And here is 1 cup of fat-free cheddar cheese. And I know it's hard to find fat-free cheddar cheese. I typically find the Kraft one at Walmart. Sometimes I can't even find it there. So you may have to use reduced fat. If you do, it's going to bump up the bites and points of this by 2, but honestly, once you see the final tally on the bites and points, going up by 2 isn't going to be that big of a deal. Here I have 1 4-ounce can of diced pimentos, and you could get roasted red tomatoes and chop them up yourself. You could even leave it out if you needed to, but I really love the little touch of sweetness that gives. Here I have 1/2 of a medium onion diced, and that is about 2/3 of a cup if you wanted to measure out if you had like frozen or pre-cut. Whatever you need to do, you do it. Here I have 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and that is about 20 grams. I did forget to mention the cheddar cheese is about 112 grams. I figured some people may be watching from the UK. I know some of you do anyways, and I really don't use grams that often. But when it comes to cheeses, nuts, things like that, I generally prefer to weigh them. So the Parmesan is about 20 grams. Here I have 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, and you could do more or less if you want. That's up to you. It's all a matter of taste. Here I have 2 teaspoons of dried thyme, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon of black pepper, and that is all we're going to need. So let me shuffle a few things around. This comes together pretty quickly, so we'll get started in a moment. All right, I have about a 6-quart slow cooker here. You could probably get away with this in a smaller one, but this is the one that I like to use, and this is really simple. We're gonna add most of this in now. 3 things we're not. We're not going to add in the frozen vegetables, but you should take them out and measure them when you start everything else. That way they have time to thaw as this cooks. We're also not going to add either of the cheeses right now. So we're going to set those aside. One thing I did fail to mention was with the rice. You do want to rinse your rice until the water is clear. You just fill up a bowl, wash it around a couple times, dump it, rinse it. Or you could put it in a strainer and rinse it that way, but it does take a little bit longer, I think. Now the reason you want to do that is that this is already going to be a thick stew. It's not going to be fluffy rice and things like that. But you don't want it to get overly clumpy unless you don't mind that. If you don't mind it really thick, you don't have to necessarily rinse the rice. But I do like rinsing it just to get a little bit of the starch out of here and loosen this up a little bit. But the first thing we're going to start with, I always like to start with my onions to make like a little base, but you can put this in any order that you want. Chicken, rice, chicken broth, pimentos with the liquid, cream soup, garlic, thyme, salt, and pepper. And then just stir all this together. You want to get that cream soup broken up. And honestly, I did forget, I usually don't add the chicken in that early. I usually mix up the cream soup first. And that is the way it is written in the recipe, so just follow the recipe. Do as I write, not as I do. But just stir that all together to break up that cream soup, and it'll break up a little bit more as it cooks, so don't worry about getting it too perfect. You just want to make sure all of this is spread out. All right, so that is all in there. Now we are going to cover this, and we are going to set this over high heat for 2.5 hours. And then we're gonna come back, we're gonna add our veggies and our cheese, and it's gonna go for another half hour. But I will give this 2.5 hours, and I'll be back to show you how to add in all the other ingredients. Okay, so the timer just went off for 2.5 hours. Now, my slow cooker, once the time goes off, it's going to switch over to warm. So I need to turn it back onto high, and I'm going to put it for another 30 minutes. It may take a little longer than that. But what we need to do now is I've already checked the rice. There's still a little bit of crunch to it, which is fine at this point. But we are going to add in the thawed frozen vegetables, cheddar cheese, and Parmesan cheese. And then we're just going to stir all of this together. We want to get everything mingled together. You can see it's getting very thick, but it's still got a lot of liquid in there. So we're going to let this cook for another 30 minutes to an hour. And we're going to know that it's done when most of the liquid is absorbed. And you can taste the rice and just make sure that it is done. As I said, I just checked it, and there was a little bit of crunch to it, but it still has some time to go, so I'm not that worried about it. So put the lid back on. I'll check it in 30, see where we are, and then we'll move on from there. All right, so it's been another hour, and I checked the rice, and for some reason, there is still a little crunch to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to amend the recipe and recommend either pre-soaking the rice, which would be soaking the rice for about a half an hour beforehand, or par cooking it, which would be cooking it in boiling water for about 5 to 10 minutes just to soften it up. But you can see it's a nice thick type of stew, very filling, very warming, especially as we get into those autumn months when there's a little bit more of a chill in the air. But I will, as I said, amend the recipe. You may not have the same problem. I've made this other times without that problem, but just to reduce the risk of that, I am going to add par cooking or pre-soaking the rice to the recipe, but that will be in the recipe on the blog, so you don't have to worry about remembering any of this. This is so delicious, so creamy. We absolutely love it. But you may be asking yourself, what are the nutrition facts for this delicious dish? This will serve 6 people. So you're getting a nice hearty portion, and you could obviously bring that portion size down a little bit if you wanted to spread this out to 8, but the bites and points really aren't that bad, neither are the calories. So for 1 serving of this with the fat-free cheese, it would be 3 Better Balance bites or Old Blue Points. I am on the Healthy Better Balance plan, which is the equivalent to the old WW Blue plan, and that's around where their current plan is. Now, if you can't find the fat-free cheese and you need to use reduced fat cheese, it's still not that bad. 5 Better Balance bites or Old Blue Points for a serving. So still within reason. If you are following calories, the calories for 1 serving would be 380. And if you are following macros, the fat would be 8.3 grams. Saturated fat would be 2.2 grams. Protein would be 28.4 grams. Carbs would be 49.1 grams. Fiber would be 4.9 grams. And sugars would be 2.3 grams for 1 serving of this dish. And I hope that you enjoyed my part of Kim's Cooking It Slow collab. As I said, you can check out all of the other channels that are doing this collab down in the description box. There will be links to all of their channels. And if you wouldn't mind doing the usual, like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. Now, this is coming out on a day that I don't typically share a video, so if you'd hit the notification bell, you would have been alerted. And if you came over from someone else's channel, I'd love for you to leave a comment down below and let me know whose channel you came from. Now, if you want the recipe for this, I will, of course, leave a link directly to the recipe down in the description box. There is also a link to the blog itself if you're looking for any of my recipes, or my cookbook link is down there. There are many things in the description box, so make sure you go check that out. But I think it is time for us to have a delicious dinner. And I hope that you'll be enjoying some of this yourself very soon. So until next time, bye.